The flowers arrived at 9:47 in the morning. White lilies. 12 of them. Wrapped in black ribbon with a handwritten card tucked inside. The funeral home director carried them in personally, because the arrangement was, in his words, particularly beautiful. Diane noticed them the moment she walked in. Not because of the flowers. Because of the name on the card. This is the story of what happened next. And what had been happening, quietly, deliberately, and entirely out of sight, for the 3 years before. My name is not important. But what I'm about to tell you is. Robert and Diane had been married for 19 years. 2 kids. A house in the suburbs. Sunday roasts. Arguments about whose turn it was to take the bins out. Normal. Comfortable. Real. Robert was the kind of man people described as solid. Dependable. He coached his son's football team on Saturday mornings. He remembered birthdays. He called his mother every Sunday without being asked. By all accounts, he was a good man. That is the part that makes this story so hard to tell. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't exciting in the way that people write about in books. But Say was consistent. And when you've been hurt before, consistent feels like everything. I trusted him completely. I think that's what I keep coming back to. Not the anger. Not even the grief, really. Just how completely I trusted him. Robert worked in logistics management for a mid-sized company about 40 minutes from their home. He'd worked there for 11 years. And for the last 3 of those 11 years, he had worked very closely with a woman named Sandra. Sandra was his, and I want you to pay attention to how this word gets used, his work wife. That phrase. Work wife. People use it so casually. So lightly. Like it means nothing. Like it's just an office joke. Like it has no weight. It had weight. It always has weight. And Diane was about to find out exactly how much. Here is what Diane knew about Sandra before the funeral. She knew her name. Robert mentioned her occasionally. Casually. She knew she was a colleague. She knew they worked closely on the same accounts. And she knew, though she had filed this information in the drawer she reserved for things she didn't want to look at too directly, that Robert's phone went face down whenever Sandra's name came up. I said it to Diane at least twice. I said, why does he do that with the phone? Why does it always end up face down when you're in the room? And Diane, God love her, she said, Carol, you're paranoid. He just doesn't like notifications. He didn't like notifications. Right. Was I naive? Maybe. But here's the thing people don't understand when they're on the outside looking in. When you love someone, when you've built a life with someone, you don't go looking for evidence. Because finding it would mean everything falls apart. And you're not ready for everything to fall apart. So you don't look. You choose not to see. You tell yourself it's nothing. And most of the time, you're right. Until you're not. There were other things too. Small things. The kind of things that only make sense in retrospect. He started going to the gym, which was fine. He started caring which shirt he wore to work, which was less fine. He came home later on Thursdays. Always Thursdays. When Diane asked why, he said they had a standing team meeting that kept running over. She checked the calendar on the fridge. The Thursday meetings were there. Printed. Typed. Official. She never thought to question who had put them there. I want to be careful about what I say here because he's gone. And I know that changes things for people. But I'll tell you this. I knew something was off. Men know. We don't always say it. We don't always name it. But you watch another man, a man you know, and something shifts in him. Something in the eyes. Robert had shifted. I just didn't say it out loud. And I genuinely wish, I had. Robert died on a Tuesday morning in October. He was 44 years old. A heart attack, sudden, without warning, without any chance to say the things people want to say. He was at work when it happened. And the first person to call Diane, before the hospital, before his mother, before anyone, was Sandra. Diane remembers the call. Word for word. She said, "Diane, this is Sandra from Robert's office. I'm so sorry to have to call you like this. There's been an incident." An incident. That was the word she used. I didn't know her voice. I'd never spoken to her before. She knew mine. She called me by my first name. Like she knew me. And I remember thinking, in that moment, that's strange. But I had other things to think about. So I filed it away. In that drawer. The one I'd been filling for years. The next 3 days were the days that grief turned into logistics. Arrangements to make. Family to call. Children to hold. Diane did what people in shock do, she moved. She kept moving. Because stopping meant feeling. And feeling meant falling. And she couldn't fall yet. There was too much to do. She was extraordinary those first few days. I don't know how she did it. I genuinely don't. She organized everything. She made the calls. She wrote the words for the order of service herself. She didn't break. Not once. Not until the morning of the funeral. Not until the flowers. The morning of the funeral. The room was filled with arrangements. Wreaths from the neighbors. White roses from Robert's mother. A simple bouquet from the children's school. And then, carried in by the funeral director with both hands and a respectful nod, the lilies. 12 white lilies. Black ribbon. And a card. Diane picked up the card. She read it. She read it twice. And then she stood very, very still. For a long time. The card said, "You were my person. I will carry you always. All my love, forever, Sandra. My person. All my love. Forever." Those aren't words you write to a colleague. Those aren't words you write to a work friend. Those are words you write to someone who. Those are words you write to someone who is yours. And I knew. At that moment, standing in that room with my children 10 feet away, I knew. I knew everything. All at once. Like a door blowing open. I was watching Diane when she read it. I saw her face change. I've known my sister her entire life. I know every expression she has. And what crossed her face in that moment, it wasn't grief. It was recognition. The worst kind. The kind that answers every question you were too afraid to ask. Diane did not cry. She did not make a scene. She did not say a word. She placed the card back in the envelope. She handed the envelope to her sister. And she said quietly, precisely in a voice that Carol says she will never forget for the rest of her life, 4 words. "Remove the flowers. Please." That was it. That was all I said. Because what else is there to say? In that room. On that day. With my children right there. Some things you swallow. And you deal with it later. When you're ready. When you can breathe. Nobody argued. Nobody asked questions. I just picked them up and walked them out to the car park. And I stood there for a moment. With 12 white lilies. And I thought about everything I had noticed and never said. And I felt, I still feel, like I failed her. I should have said something. A long time ago. I should have said something. 2 weeks after the funeral, Diane opened Robert's laptop. She wasn't looking for anything specific. She was trying to find the password to a joint account they had, something practical, something necessary. What she found instead was an email folder. Labeled, and this is real, labeled Project S. 3 years of emails. 3 years. I sat at that kitchen table for 4 hours. Reading. I didn't move. I didn't eat. I didn't answer the phone. I just read. Everything. Every message. Every plan they made. Every Thursday. Every late meeting that wasn't a meeting. And slowly, email by email, the man I thought I knew became someone I had never met. That was the real loss. Not just Robert. But the Robert the first thought existed. Losing him twice. That is something nobody prepares you for. When she finally called me, it was almost midnight. She didn't cry on the phone. She just read me some of the emails. And I sat on my end of the line and I didn't say anything. Because what do you say? What words exist for that? There are none. There are genuinely none. Sandra, for her part, never reached out again after the flowers. No message. No call. No acknowledgement. The flowers were her goodbye. Her last act in a relationship Diane didn't know existed. Sent to a funeral she wasn't invited to. For a man who belonged, on paper, in public, in the eyes of the children who carried his coffin, to someone else. What gets me, what I can't let go of, is the audacity. To send flowers. To that funeral. With that card. That wasn't grief. That was a statement. She wanted Diane to know. Even then. Even at the very end. She wanted to be known. She wanted to exist in that room. Even if it destroyed everything. And it did. It destroyed everything that was left. Here is what I want you to sit with. Not the betrayal, though it is real and it is devastating. Not even the audacity of the flowers, though that is something I have thought about many times since I first heard this story. I want you to sit with this. The red flags were always there. The phone face down. The Thursday meetings. The news shirts. The shift in the eyes that Marcus noticed and never named. They were there. In plain sight. Filed away in the drawer that Diane, like so many people, kept for the things she didn't want to look at too directly. We all have that drawer. Don't we? People ask me what I would tell my younger self. I tell her, trust the drawer. Not to destroy things. Not to accuse people. But to open it. Just open it. Look at what's in there. Because the things you file away don't disappear. They just wait. And they will always, always, come out eventually. One way or another. They always come out. Diane is doing better now. She says that word carefully, better. Not fine. Not healed. Not over it. Better. Her children are older. Her house is still the same house. Sunday roasts still happen. Just differently now. Just with a different shape to the table. She kept the 12 lilies, by the way. Not as a symbol. Not as a reminder. She planted them in the garden. She says they grew back the following spring. And every year since. She says she doesn't know what to make of that. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. That's the thing about quiet betrayals. They leave marks that don't disappear. They just change shape. Over time. If this story gave you chills, if something in here felt familiar, subscribe to The Quiet Witness. New stories every week. Red flags. Quiet betrayal. Real consequences. The quiet ones always leave a trail. We just help you see it.